Hello, welcome everyone to our NFL preview with Jacob from Trypod. Jacob, welcome.
Thanks, mate. Always a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry, Dak Prescott hasn't scored a touchdown for us, a first touchdown, which we've been on at, I think, 26-1 the last couple of weeks. But I can report that he's into favorite for MVP. And you heard me say it 2 weeks ago. I really liked him. It was $21 2 weeks ago. So that's something you can cheer with a huge game coming up for Dallas this week. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We've got a slightly less appealing game to talk about Friday Aussie time.
Nah, sweet. Well, look, I think we were just chatting just before we started recording about how obviously Jacob's done the NRL for almost a decade. I've been or going on about my try scorer content for the last couple of years, but it's kind of nice to have a break from the NRL, and obviously we're covering NFL and NBA on here. And I was mentioning to Jacob, we're going all in on the BBL, the cricket, which starts tomorrow, Thursday the 7th of December. We've got a bunch of stuff, podcasts, articles, data tools, all the rest of it. If you Google Wiki Linktree, you can find the podcast that Jacob and I do on here and everything else that Wiki does, all for free. And obviously, you know, that Trypod Punters Tips Forum. Have I got that right, Jacob? I always
You've done
stuff it
well
up
there.
somehow. There you go.
It's a little bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
But
If you don't know,
hey, I mean, if you're a sports fan, American sports during the day, Big Bash, prime time at night. That's got you covered.
Just when the missus thought that you'll get some quality family time in, you're occupied once again. But nah, sweet. So obviously the odds comparison tool for NFL and for NBA, our developers have been helping me getting that up every day because I've been overseas for a little bit, which has been good. I think they get it up most mornings. We've just got it updated before our podcast now, and as always, we record this podcast sort of Wednesday night Sydney time. So obviously Thursday morning or Friday morning for the NFL. Obviously, if you check that out, we usually update it just before 9 o'clock Sydney time, so you get more markets, more bookies available on there. So I'll share my screen for the odds comparison tool, Jacob, and I'll let you weave your magic and go through some of your opinions on what's been going on.
Yes, we're going to talk Pats Steelers, and this is not typically the game that you want to be looking at for anytime touchdown scorers. Now, some of these prices might actually look juicy and might look better than a typical game, but I think there's good reason for that, and I don't think the odds are going to compensate enough for a game that legit may only have one, two, maybe three touchdowns total. Now, if you want to look for a first touchdown scorer, I say this in rugby league as well, even in a super low scoring game, a first touchdown scorer can be just as good odds as in a high scoring game, because it doesn't really matter if there's one touchdown / try or 10, as long as you're getting fair odds relative to all the other players. But what you don't want to do is an anytime touchdown in a game with very few touchdowns. You want that to be on them in the higher scoring games where there's plenty to go around. And that's not going to be the case here. In fact, the Patriots are setting records. Last week, the line was 5.5. They were an underdog. Guess what, Nakul? They kept their opponent to just 6 points. Problem was they didn't score at all and they didn't cover the line, and they're setting records for the last 3 games. They've conceded less points than any team in like 90 years that failed to win. So pretty good defense, but just grim offense. And that's the same story for the Steelers. Really strong on defense. And that's why the total is as low as I've ever seen an NFL game. Certainly outside of games with extreme weather and snow. The over-under for this game is 30 points. So, Nakul, I know you're trying to get into the NFL a little bit. I will give you a tip. This is not the one you want to watch to get into the game. Unless you're a real diehard and you love your defense, you might just skip this one, or you don't need to watch anything more than probably just the highlights. Yep. But in terms of the matchup, I want nothing to do with New England. Now, here's the thing. They've actually tried really hard, as I said. The effort's been there on defense, and you can often get value playing the ugly duckling. People know about that following the tripod. We want to play on sides that no one else wants to touch. But here's the issue in the NFL where you've got a draft, and the Patriots have one of the worst 2 records in the league. They're in prime position for a top 2 pick. They need a franchise quarterback. There will be one available if they stay in this position. Why would you bet on a team that honestly is better suited not winning? So I could only look to the Steelers. I know they went down as $1.30 favorites a week ago by 14 points. They're around the same odds here. I think surely lightning doesn't strike twice. They should win this one, even without their starting quarterback. Pickett I'm still thinking Pittsburgh's going to cover the line. I've seen 5.5, 6 points. And I will still play a first touchdown because, again, look, the risk is with first touchdown, if there's no TDs in the game like last week, then you're going to lose. But I think there can be at least one TD. And the value I'm seeing is in George Pickens. So he's $13 via the odds comparison tool best price that I saw when I had a scan. The thing is, it's more likely Pittsburgh runs it in and scores a rushing touchdown. But when you got a backfield that's splitting carries between Harris and Warren, then I don't want to try and guess which running back it may be. I do also think the Pats take away what you do best and will try and stop the run game of the Steelers. Therefore, they're going to force Trubisky to make some tough throws. And there's not many wideouts in the league that are better at catching tough throws and sub optimal passes than George Pickens. Great hands, $13 on a $1.30 favorite. He can catch it even when it's not a good throw. That's the way I'm looking in Thursday night football.
Awesome. I love hearing your insights first, Jacob, and then try to draw you out to my end of the my end of the odds, just to pull up a little bit of market value. So once again, we've covered this a few times. Market value doesn't mean necessarily that it's a good play or good odds, but it just helps you find when bookies have priced certain players way higher than others. So you can see here at the moment, this guy's 81s on one bookie and 41 at highest on the other. Obviously, we've only got 3 bookies at the moment. But Jacob, when you're seeing this sort of anything at about 120% or above, anyone of interest at all, or not really?
The thing is, a lot of the bookies are going to play it safe and give you way unders on some of these players that are low likelihood of scoring. So then the market value tool may point them out as having an outlying price, but it may only be the case it's outlying against some poor prices. I mean, I just can't play any New England receiver. I don't know if New England's going to score a touchdown at all. I definitely think Steelers are most likely to score first, and the way New England's played, they've just been abysmal throwing the ball. So sorry to say, nobody's really good. Like Frymouth, sorry, for the Steelers, $17 is probably the one, because I did talk about I'm going wide receiver for Steelers, but he's missed a few games with injury. But at the tight end position, that's actually not a terrible play there. And again, what you're saying, Nakul, is that $17, where the best anywhere else is 13 or lower, could be worth a little crack as well, actually.
Yeah, and similar to what Jacob says during the NRL season of, like, we have the advantage as the punter to obviously take on the bookie whenever we want to, whichever bookie we want to, whatever market we want to. So it's not a case of, oh wow, these 120% or higher for market value, we've got to put $5 on all of them. It's not that at all. But it's a really nice way of getting conversation started. And obviously, if something does stand out, we can obviously get on. But I think those are usually the golden nuggets when the odds aren't so ridiculous, like 41s and 61s and 81s. If they're at that sort of like 15 to 25 or maybe 30 range, and they're also a clear standout compared to other bookies, that's usually when you get players that most punters would be interested in. But awesome. So as always with the odds comparison tool, you can play around, you can sort by any of these things that you want. As I said, every time we record this, it's Wednesday night Aussie time, Thursday morning for the NBA, and Friday morning for the NFL. Aussie time around sort of 9 a.m. is usually when we update at Sydney time. So have a look. There'll be more bookies and there'll be more markets. And yeah, we'll get stuck into the NBA one in a second. But again, Google Wiki Linktree, you can check out all this stuff for free. We'll catch you soon.